Hey, welcome back. Got a good one for you today. I've been saving this bourbon. It's popular. It's not the best bourbon in the world. It's not the highest price point in the world, but it is kind of hard to find sometimes in certain areas. And around here, you just kind of get lucky when you get it. It's doesn't seem like they get it very often, but without further ado, let's just get right into it. All right. We have Buffalo Trace. I know it's if you live in Kentucky or you live in certain areas, it's all over the place, and it's sub $40 bourbon. Around here, they don't put it on the shelf because they don't get that many, and so you really have to know to ask for it. And they usually keep it behind the counter hidden. Yeah, this and Blanton's and other things. I mean, they get very few bottles of it, and even the W.L. Weller Special Reserve is hard to get. I have a bottle of that over there too, but you know, it is what it is, and there's a lot of hype behind it. This is Buffalo Trace, so it's from the Buffalo Trace lineup, which includes Eagle Rare and all your Pappies and things like that. But we're going to focus on Buffalo Trace. You can see this is because I can't get it very often. This is where we are in the bottle. But bourbon doesn't go bad in the bottle. It may lose some of its potency over time if there's too much air in the bottle. But if you have a good cork, I wouldn't worry about it too much. You may lose a little intensity off of it, but it's nominal. Let's pop the cork on this thing. Good one. Yeah, it's sealed in there really well. So let me pour you a little bit. And someone reminded me that I haven't been saying, as always, if you don't drink this, you know I will. So there we go. And also, if you didn't watch my last video, I got this painting that was commissioned. I did a video on it a few days ago. So if you want to go back and watch that, you can see the link to Big Tank Hank, and his daughter does paintings, and loving it. So let's get some air in here. Uh-oh, got a drop on the outside. Hang on. That's that Buffalo Trace I remember. This is a little, not as gentle, put it that way, as some other bourbons. You tend to get a little burn off of it, but it has decent legs, not the best. And of course, I've had this before and reviewed it before. It's 45%, 90 proof. Which is right there in your typical medium bourbon range, or say medium. It's even at the lower end. Now there's some like Basil Hayden's and even Old Elk, I believe. It's Old Elk. Yeah, 44%. So now it's not Old Elk. It's something else, and I can't remember what it was right now. Maybe it was Yellowstone. Nope, but there's another one that I have that's kind of low, and I can't remember what it is right now. But yeah, pretty decent legs on it. Not real fat drops coming down. I mean, they're kind of thin, but they run a little slow. So they're a little thicker than some. It's certainly not as thin as some. Let's go ahead and nose this thing. Yep, there's that good old, it's very, very familiar to me, Buffalo Trace. I love it. I call it the campfire bourbon. I always just imagine that if I were going to go roughing it and I were going to build a campfire and cook on an open flame or something like that. This is one of my bourbons of choice to have with me. Vanillas, apple. Now it's same lineup, W.L. Weller Special Reserve. I call it the State Fair bourbon. I get a lot of candy apple, caramel apple off of it, but this has similar notes to that. But again, it's just a little more raw, I guess you could say. Let me go ahead and give her a sip. Force that all around. There's that candy apple coming through. It does have a candy sweetness to it. It's like the red candy on the apple, but when you bite into it, you get the sticky candy, which is really sweet. And a lot of people prefer caramel apple. But it has some of those caramel notes to it. But it does when you nose this thing, it reminds me of like a carnival or state fair or something like that, you know, where they have the booths around and they're frying things and they have the candy apple, caramel apple, you know, carts and things, popcorns, things like that, funnel cakes. But I mean, it is sweet, and it is sweeter than some of the others. So. Got that forced all around, but you do get some oaky notes come through. Not real heavy, but a really decent finish on it. I mean, for the price, this is a great bourbon. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. It's just a really pleasant, nothing off-putting about it. But you do get a little singe and you get a little rasp on the back of the throat with it, where some of the other bourbons are more tame and gentle and I get smoother. But this one's plenty smooth enough. But nothing wrong with that at all. Quintessential bourbon. I mean, it is like right in there with what I like about bourbons. So yeah, if you can find it, and if you're in an area where you can get a lot of it, more power to you. I would have several bottles on my shelf just to have around. It's always a good one to pull down if you're just hanging out with friends or whatnot. And it's also a good one to put in blind tastings against other things. So is Elijah Craig. So is Blade and Bow and some others. But the legs get stronger on it as you continue to swirl and get air, and you can see the trails coming down. It coats really well, but it does have a candy sweetness to it. And some people may think it's a little too sweet. I don't. I think it tames out with the woody notes and all of that. But that initial sip and maybe 2 or 3 sips after that mid center of the tongue sweetness is very prominent with this bourbon. But like I said, after you get into it and you start drinking a little more of it, it mellows out, it tames out a little bit. I have not added water to this. I think it's plenty weak enough without water. And you can tell I really like it a lot. But yeah, I am getting some of those caramel notes and some darker fruit in there, but most prominent in this is fresh apple. I mean, and maybe some pear, but a little wildflowery on the nose, like a field. Like there's some hints of earthiness to it, but so it's beyond a basic bourbon. So you're starting to get into more and more notes and more depth, but it's not too deep. Definitely a great starter bourbon. If somebody is like, man, I'm kind of new to the game, I like this and I like that, but I haven't tried a lot of them, you won't be disappointed with Buffalo Trace at all. Like I said, it's their flagship basic bourbon. And if you go visit Buffalo Trace Distillery, you can get all the bottles you want, probably. I don't know. But I know they sell it. I know they sell it online. I've seen it. But with that, there's not much more to say about it. It's just a really, really good bourbon. I'm going to finish these glasses here and enjoy this on this Sunday afternoon. But as always, please like and subscribe. Hit that bell down there for notifications, and I promise I'll keep bringing you these videos.